Oh, hello there. This is video 4 in a look at the Department for Communities advice on home moving, which was published, last week, 11th of June. I've spent 2 videos looking at some of the takeaways from that. I spent yesterday then talking about the special conditions, the coronavirus special conditions that the Law Society of Northern Ireland have produced. Continuing back with the advice today, to be honest, I'm not really looking at exactly the text that is in here. Well, we're looking here at takeaways and how we sort of learn from this and what we can take away from it and use in our own practices. So what we're looking at the moment, today anyway, is how we can actually change the conveyancing procedure to accommodate completions at this time. The most important thing, the guidance here says that solicitors can reopen and take clients. The fact of the matter is, we never really closed. Yes, our offices were closed to the public and still are, but we were still opening cases and taking on clients even when we were working remotely. And let's not be naive enough to think that we weren't preparing for the reopening of the market pretty much from the moment that it closed. But the most important thing, which is what conveyancing is about, is the fact that we have to make sure that people are protected when they move house and their legal rights are protected. There's 3 things I think that we need to look at when we look at how conveyancing procedures and processes have to change. First of all, we can look at the industry. Law Society of Northern Ireland over the period of lockdown has really come into its own in terms of its representative role. It has, and I'm lucky enough to be on a couple of the sort of the property related committees, including Conveyancing and Property Committee, and I can see the amount of work that the members of those committees have done to basically produce guidance for member firms really on a weekly basis, and at one point it was almost a daily basis that there were conveyancing updaters and e-informers coming out. So as I say, the industry has really risen to the challenge, and as well obviously the Law Society have produced the coronavirus special conditions, which I talked about yesterday. The other thing obviously is then sort of looking at the procedures themselves. The special conditions of the coronavirus special conditions allows a completion date to be delayed by agreement and in default of agreement for 30 working days if there is a coronavirus event. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, there's 13 defined coronavirus events, many more events defined in Northern Ireland than in England certainly, but I think very much reflecting the experience of lawyers in Northern Ireland over the period of lockdown and the experiences and the pain points that we have encountered. The other thing that we need to look at really is the office environment, and I have really mixed views on this. There's no doubt in my mind, conveyancing at the moment in Northern Ireland cannot entirely be transacted remotely. We work better in the office, we work quicker in the office. I think we're more productive. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certainly certain elements of our day-to-day conveyancing practice that we're probably better off doing at home, and we're certainly very happy to do that and to encourage our staff to do that. But the fact of the matter is, we want to be part of a larger team again. We miss the interaction, the atmosphere of a busy office, all of those things. Now, on the downside, as an employer, I worry about my staff coming back to the workplace. I worry about their mental health. I worry both those who have been on furlough, as they hopefully come back, they will probably have a level of trepidation about coming into the office again. For those who have not been on furlough, they've been under incredible pressure, and the pressure is only going to ramp up in the next couple of weeks as hopefully things start to progress in the market and we start getting instructed in more and more cases. So as I say, the well-being of staff is something that we really need to look at. I think clients will certainly see a change in how we are doing things. First of all, we are still at this moment in time closed to the public. Our main doors are open downstairs, which will allow people to come into our porch, which will be locked into the office. and people can then securely put stuff in our post box. But as I say, unless in the most exceptional circumstances, clients and members of the public are not coming into our office, we will probably allow that by appointment if we can't see them or can't deal with their case remotely. But as I say, going forward, I think that'll be on a fairly rare basis. And hopefully then, as time goes on, all those things will be looked at and relaxed. The other biggie, I suppose, for us at the moment is the idea of the virtual meeting. I said in one of my last videos that we've been looking at how we turn one of our meeting rooms into a virtual meeting room. I've started to get some more additional equipment. I do love my technology toys. There is a reason behind this. The main things that I've bought at the moment, it's very hard to get webcams these days, especially from reputable companies. And the one I looked at, which I bought at the start of lockdown, which is about 65 quid, is now about 300 quid on Amazon. So we've ordered a slightly different webcam. But the equipment you see here, we have a really professional quality USB mic. Our virtual meetings room will be used not just by one solicitor, but by our team. And therefore it's important that we don't look at a headset mic or something where potentially people would be breathing into it. This will be out of the way. It'll be a bit above, as you would expect. We also have a very trendy ultra high definition USB camera, which we're going to look at for sharing the screen and how we look at documents and things like that, to really just make that client experience of the virtual meeting as close as we can possibly get to a physical meeting, where we're actually showing a piece of paper and pointing to say, please sign there, or please look at that. So as I say, I'm quite keen on that. I'm enthusiastic to get that set up as soon as we possibly can. The one other thing I want to really talk about today is the new and old challenges that conveyancing is going to have. Most of the old challenges haven't really gone away. I suppose from people coming to us, we're lucky we have clients from across Northern Ireland, and on those occasions where they need to come and physically see us, that is now not so much of a barrier, because we are now doing so many more meetings virtually, and that's a fantastic thing. We do have a couple of things that we need to think about. The three main issues I think going forward, which are partly results, or certainly are more significant now because of the virtual nature of things. The Northern Ireland banking system still can't move completion monies around instantaneously or quickly enough to be able to facilitate a chain of completions by electronic means on the same day. It's something I've talked about before, we'll continue to talk about again, but that is a real intractable problem. As we want to try to keep away from banking client account checks and things like that, just simply the physicalities of going into the banks, we need to do more electronic transfers, but that unfortunately is a massive problem at the moment. The other big issue here is actually money laundering, or anti-money laundering I should say. The more you don't see clients face to face, the more there is a risk of money laundering issues creeping in, and that's something that we're extremely alive to. It's something that, even though various regulations and processes and procedures have been relaxed, it's been very clear, been made clear by OBAS, the overseer of regulatory bodies. OBAS have made it clear to the Law Society of Northern Ireland, who have made it clear to its members that there is absolutely no relaxation of our obligations under the anti-money laundering regulations. So we have looked at various ways of how we, get around that, how we deal with that challenge, and how we enhance our AML and our client due diligence procedures, even though we're not necessarily seeing clients as often as we maybe would have liked. I think the other big thing is going to be around about the execution of documents. I think in England, they've pushed forward a bit in terms of e-signatures, and even in terms of deeds. I think there's some movement in how those can be executed remotely. That is still more of a problem in Northern Ireland, and that's something that we do have to deal with. And with the virtual meetings, there's always going to have to be some sort of a physical wet ink on paper thing, which we're going to have to look at going forward. But as I say, we're still very positive. We're delighted that the property market is reopened, and we are rising up to meet those challenges, and we will innovate going forward. So that's your takeaways for today. More tomorrow. Thank you again.